Let's speak now to Dmitry Babich, who is a Russian political analyst, and he joins us now from Moscow. Thank you for your time. How far do you think that this war is going to go? At what point will President Putin be satisfied?
Well, no one in Russia is happy about this war. There is no jingoist spirit here. Everyone understands that war is a 19th century method of resolving political conflicts. But unfortunately, with Ukraine, we have 19th or maybe even 17th century hatred against us. So this, I think, prompted Putin to take that decision. If you look at the media in Ukraine, if you look at the social networks, if you look at the, we communicate with Ukrainians every day because we all speak the same language and we all were born and raised in the same country. So this was becoming unbearable, and the decision to demilitarize Ukraine is now supported by most of the population.
Sorry, you said there, I want to ask you, you said there we're all the same people, we're all born and raised in the same country. Ukrainians see themselves very much as Ukrainian, and many of them are very, very angry that Russia is bombing their cities, that civilians are being killed.
You're absolutely right. There are many Ukrainians who are angry and who are anti-Russian, but nevertheless, this is history. We have been living in the same country for 400 years with most of Ukraine. So what I was saying is not that all Ukrainians like us. What I was saying is that we communicate to each other. We know Russians know the situation inside Ukraine because we could watch Ukrainian television. We read their press, we read their social media. We know what was going on inside there. So basically, if you ask me for the forecast, I think the Ukrainian armed forces will be defeated during the next a week or two. There may be resistance on the ground in various cities. Right now, Russia is even avoiding to take big cities, fearing casualties among the population. So there will be resistance, but I think Putin's logic is very kind of pragmatic.
What is the point? What is the point of this? Where do you think President Putin wants to go? What do you think he wants to be the end game here?
The end game is the destruction of the anti-Russian political regime that came to power in Ukraine in 2014 after the legally elected president was ousted, with 40 policemen killed and several hundred maimed. When this regime goes, Russia will be satisfied. We will not be taking any of Ukraine's land. What we need from them is security and neutral status, as Russia demanded openly in its proposals to NATO and to Ukraine in December last year. But what I wanted to say is there will be resistance on the ground after the end of the military operation. But Putin's logic is very simple. What can this resistance do? Okay, they can kill 10 soldiers, 100 soldiers. They can make a terrorist attack in Russia. How many people are they going to kill? Maybe a few dozen, a few hundred. The state, and the Ukrainian state now is very anti-Russian, is much more dangerous than any groups, even very anti-Russian groups. This is the logic of the Russian state.
I just want to pick up on something you said there, because something that we're seeing more and more is two versions of history. Because you're talking about what happened in 2014 as a coup. I was there in 2014. I saw the protests in Maidan. These people wanted and were angry about the pressure that was being put on the president to sign an agreement that would be seen as pro-Russia, or not sign an agreement that would be seen as pro-European. And then that president fled, and then there were elections which brought in another elected president. The president who is elected now is a Russian-speaking Jew, which goes against this claim of denazification, which is coming from President Putin. So how do you think that these two different narratives exist side by side? And what do you think the impact of the clamping down on the media in Russia is having on how people feel about this conflict?
Well, I think the solution for reconciling these narratives is very simple. I may ask our viewers to check the news that they saw and that they heard in February 2014. There was an agreement between the opposition and President Yanukovych which presupposed that the opposition would stop any violent activity, that elections would be held in summer and Yanukovych would stay. It was guaranteed by the foreign ministers of France, Germany, and Poland. And then suddenly the Maidan crowd went on attack. They burned several buildings, sometimes with people inside them. Yanukovych fled. You rightly said he fled because they would kill him. He was fearing for his life. No one can be forced to stay and die. So basically, after that, elections were held in a completely different atmosphere because the rebels entered the Rada. The Rada started to pass absolutely different laws from the ones it had been passing before. And then there was a rebellion in the east because Yanukovych was from the east and people there felt deceived by the fact that their candidate, their president, was ousted violently. And the Western media kept calling this peaceful protest.
Very quickly before we leave.
Talking about the Russian media, you asked me about the Russian media. I can tell you, basically, as I told you, no one here is happy about this war. And it is called war in the Russian private media. The state media prefer to use the expression special operation, but everyone understands it's a war because the images coming from Ukraine are terrible.
Although publicly, in the public media, they're not allowed to call it a war, though, are they? It's only a Russian military intervention. Very quickly, yes or no, do you think that President Putin is going to bring back the former President Yanukovych?
No, Yanukovych today made an appeal to President Zelensky to save the country, stop the resistance. Yanukovych now will not return to power. There will be a different kind of government in Ukraine. And then hopefully peace will be reestablished. But it will be a very difficult task, not only for the Russian military, but also for a lot of people.
Okay, I think you're right. Peace is definitely what all people are wanting at this point. Thank you for your take, Dmitry Babich there, a Russian political analyst. Russia's